So we have started with the second part of the second module, which is microwave passive devices. So we'll just review in short what we had learned. So first we started with resonators. So what are they? They are tunable circuits usually used in microwave oscillators, amplifiers and filters. So all these devices except wave meters we'll see in the next course, which is RF design. So basically what is happening, the device resonates at a particular frequency, right? Because the inductive and capacitive, so it is similar to inductive and capacitive reactance as this tank circuit. So you can relate with this, right? So we have various resonators. We saw rectangular waveguide. So if I have a rectangular waveguide, usually we consider it as along the infinite extent as z axis. But if I cut it in some length d, then it becomes a cavity, right? So as we saw TE and TM modes, in the same way we have TE and TM modes here. But since one more dimension is there, instead of TMN we have TMNP, and for TMMN we have TMMNP, right? So again the equivalent circuit is LC only. So this works as a LC circuit only. So then we saw the fields, then we went to and we saw that T101 is the dominant mode provided this condition is satisfied. So then similarly we had circular waveguide, cavity resonator and re-entrant cavities. Then we went to attenuators. So what was the purpose? To attenuate the signal, right? So they were of two types, fixed and variable, right? So fixed attenuators, what did they do? They attenuated the signal by a fixed amount. For example, let's say 2 dB only, right? So I want maximum attenuation. So what I'll do, I'll keep the material which is helping me, usually a lossy dielectric, carbon or aquadag, which we saw yesterday also, exactly at the middle of the broader dimension, because the field for a TE10 mode is maximum at the center along the broader dimension, right? So that is what we saw. So apart from fixed variable attenuators, we also have movable attenuators. So this is the same fixed attenuator, but I have two dielectric rods which are acting as support so that I can move. So that is shown here. So I can move this Y-shaped thing and I can get attenuation. So when it is at this position, I have minimum attenuation, and at the middle, as T10 mode has maximum field at the center, I have again maximum attenuation. Then I have flap attenuator. So flap attenuator is placed on the top wall, right? So semicircular flap, which is nothing but a lossy dielectric, is again placed, and I have a hole here through which if I move this flap, it can intercept the field. So again, if you see, it is placed exactly at the center of broader dimension. So if I have completely inserted, I have maximum attenuation, and when it is outside, I have minimum attenuation, right? So then this is very important attenuator, because we will see phase shifters etc. also. I talked about phase shifter yesterday, so it is based on this only. So rotary wave precision attenuator. So at the start I have a rectangular waveguide which transitions into a circular waveguide, and finally the circular transition again transitions into a rectangular waveguide. So dominant mode TE10 is passed, which gets converted to TE11 in circular waveguide, and again TE10 in rectangular waveguide. And what is the function of these resistive cuts? They attenuate the signal when the electric field is parallel or perpendicular, when the electric field is parallel to the resistive cut, right? So they are placed in such a way such that attenuation takes place, right? So this was the working explained here. So then we did E plane T yesterday, so we'll again revise them. So this is the E plane T. Why is it called as the E plane T? Because the plane of symmetry, which is this, along this the E field is parallel to the plane of symmetry. That's why it is called as E field, E plane T, right? So this is called as the side arm and port 3. This is the main arm and this is the other arm, right? So these two are together called as collinear arms. Okay, so port 1, port 2, port 3. So you can remember in anti-clockwise direction their name. So what happens here, if I give the input to port 3, the output is split into two equal halves but with out of phase shift, right? So if I give the input in this way, if I have a 0 phase shift here, I'll have 180-degree phase shift here. So these two are out of phase always. Similarly, if I give two out of in phase signals, what will happen? It will appear in this way at the output. So this is what E plane T. So where is the waveguide? Rectangular waveguide cut along the broader dimension. So if I cut the rectangular waveguide along the narrower dimension, insert another waveguide, what will happen? H plane T will be created. So why is it called as H plane T? Because if you see the fields, the H plane is parallel to the axis of symmetry or plane of symmetry again. Okay, so this is the side arm or H arm, and these two are again collinear arms. So if you give a input here, what is happening, the input is divided equally between these two arms, and they are in phase. So that is the difference between E plane T and H plane T. So for E plane T this was out of phase, for H plane T it is in phase, right? So similarly, if you give the inputs here, you will get same output here added. So then we add the very important T, which is hybrid or magic T. So what was happening here, it is a combination of E plane T and H plane T. So if you see port 1, 2 and 4 only, it is forming a E plane T. If you see port 1, 2 and 3 only, it is forming a H plane T, right? Okay. So what happens if I give the input at port 4, it acts as a E plane T. So output is equally divided and out of phase at ports 1 and 2. If I give a input at port 3, what is happening? The output is again equally divided at ports 1 and 2, and it is in phase, right? But what happens when I give input to only port 1? The output does not appear at all at port 2, right? So that's why it is called as magic T, because this is somewhat awkward, because usually when you give the input here, it is getting divided if they give the input here, it is getting divided, right? But when you are giving input here, it is not coming here at all. So that's why it is called as something like magic is happening. That's why it is called as magic T. So let's start with the actual topic now. First let me check whether I'm recording is happening. Yes, yeah. Okay, so next topic is isolators, circulators and gyrators. So they all work on the principle of Faraday rotation. So before that, just an introduction through what we did in electromagnetics. So we studied wave polarization in electromagnetics course. What is wave polarization? The tip of the electric field vector follows some definite path. So that is called, and that depending on the path, it is called as polarization. So it follows a linear path, it is called as linear polarization. If it follows a circular path, it is called as circular polarization. And in general, we have elliptical polarization. If the E field travels in the tip of the E field, in fact travels as the path of ellipse or follows the path of ellipse, it is elliptical polarization. So in this case we are interested in circular polarization. So what types are there? Left hand circular polarization and right hand circular polarization. If it is anti-clockwise, we call it as left hand. If it is right hand, we call it as clockwise. Okay. So the polarization plane of EM wave gets rotated in the presence of magnetic field. So what is this statement? We'll see. So this is the principle of Faraday rotation. So if a plane polarized microwave, which always has LCPW or left hand circular polarized wave and right hand circular polarized wave, passes through a ferrite. So ferrite is a material, special type of material, which is placed in the magnetic field along the direction of the wave. Then what happens? The plane of polarization of the resultant wave front rotates. So this mechanism is known as Faraday rotation. So what is this statement? We'll see here. So you see, this is I can say a circular waveguide inside which a ferrite is placed. Okay, so this is port 1, this is port 2, and wave is going from port 1 to port 2 obviously. So this is the input at 1. So E field is exactly vertical. Okay, and I have, if I talk about LCPW, it is anti-clockwise like this, RCPW is clockwise like this. Okay, so what happens is, electromagnetic wave is always composed of left hand circular polarization and right hand circular polarization. That's why it is shown as E0 by 2 and E0 by 2. So the total field is E0. So E0 is exactly vertical. So when I give this as input through a ferrite, which is biased by a magnetic field, and it also depends on the length of the ferrite, what happens? The electric field orientation gets rotated by an angle theta, and depending on the direction of magnetic field and length of ferrite, it can rotate anti-clockwise or clockwise. So in this case it is rotating anti-clockwise by an angle theta. Okay, so in the same way, if I give the input from here, what will happen is, it is already rotated by an angle theta. So what is happening here? It is getting further rotated by an angle theta. Means what you are seeing here, that you give the input from whichever side, if the magnetic field is constant, what is happening? It gets rotated in the same direction irrespective of the input side, right? So what is important? Direction of rotation is same, anti-clockwise as seen from port 1 side. So from port 1 side it went anti-clockwise, so again it rotated from port 1 side in anti-clockwise direction, right? So whether the wave goes from port 1 to port 2 or port 2 to port 1, provided B naught is in the same direction. B naught is what? The magnetic field, right? So the first device which works on the principle of Faraday rotation is isolator. So as the name suggests, what it does isolation. So which we saw yesterday also in directional coupler. So in an isolator, signal flows in one direction only, from port 1 to port 2, and attenuation from port 2 to port 1 is very high. So for an ideal signal from port 2 to port 1, there is maximum attenuation, means none of the signal will be reflected, I can say. So this way an isolator isolates the source from the load. So that is simple to understand. So what is the construction? It is similar to the rotary vane precision attenuator. Okay, so it consists of three portions where the propagation mode changes from TE10 rectangular waveguide to TE11 circular waveguide, and again to TE10 rectangular waveguide. So 45-degree twist or waveguide twist connected to a circular waveguide is acting as transition. So from this rectangular waveguide, 45-degree twist is given. So this is inclined at 45 degree. Okay, so then the circular waveguide position has the tapered ferrite of known length placed in a magnetic field. Again, I mentioned in the previous slide that the rotation depends on the length of the ferrite and the magnetic field also. So that's why I have kept it in both. So the circular waveguide position has the tapered ferrite of known length placed in magnetic field along the direction of wave propagation. So inside the circular waveguide we have this ferrite rod. Okay, so this circular waveguide in its turn connected by transition to another rectangular waveguide here. Okay, so remember here there is no twist. So circular waveguide is straight away transitioning to a with a 0 degree, I mean transitioning to a rectangular waveguide. Here there is 45-degree twist. Here you see there is no twist. Okay, and apart from this there is a resistive card placed here. So you saw in rotary vane attenuator there were resistive cards, right? So if they were parallel to the field or perpendicular to the field, depending on that what was happening, the wave was getting absorbed. Okay, so here they are what? Perpendicular to the field, right? So what is happening? I am giving a TE10 mode. So let's say this is the electric field of the TE10 mode. It travels to the resistive card. Since it is perpendicular to the resistive card, it does not get attenuated. That's what we saw in attenuator. If it is parallel, then only it will be attenuated, right? So then what happens? This is a 45-degree twist as mentioned here. So what will happen? The electric field will rotate by 45 degree, right? And it is going from right to left, means anti-clockwise direction it will rotate. Okay, and then it will again, by the principle of Faraday rotation, depending on the magnetic field direction and the length of the ferrite rod, it will rotate. So it will depend on the ferrite and the magnetic field direction. So what happens in this case? It rotates in the other way, that is in the clockwise direction. So it is placed and biased in such a way that the electric field rotates clockwise by 45 degree. So what is happening? Here it was getting rotated anti-clockwise. Here it was rotating clockwise, right? So the same signal is obtained here, okay, without any attenuation, right? But let's see what happens in the return wave, right? What is isolator? Signal flows in one direction only. So this return signal, if I give the same E field from here, it should get absorbed here. So again it will come at E. So A, B, C, D, then E, F, G, H will use. So at E there is no transition, as I said. Here there is 0 degree transition, so transition is there from rectangular to circular but with 0 degree twist. So it will come as it is here. So again it will see a ferrite, right? So with respect to port 1, again it will rotate in which direction? Clockwise direction, because here it went from clockwise, and we saw in this note the direction of rotation is same irrespective of the direction, right? So again it will rotate by 45 degrees. So it has rotated clockwise by 45 degree, right? But here what is happening? When it went from A to B, we rotated anti-clockwise by 45 degree, right? So when it is coming the other way around, it will rotate clockwise, right? So it was already rotated by 45 degree. After passing through this transition and twist, it will rotate by further 45 degree. So it will be 90 degree rotated. So it will be so this electric field is now parallel to the resistive card, right? So because of this, what will happen? It will get completely absorbed by the resistive card and will get no signal here. So electric field is 0 and therefore power is 0 by Poynting theorem. P is E cross H. There is no electric field, so there is no magnetic field. So from Maxwell's equations we know they are always associated. So since no electric and magnetic field, so no power, right? So this is how a isolator works. That's what we want, right? It flows in one direction only from port 1 to port 2 and maximum attenuation from port 2 to port 1. So this is the, so it can be, isolator is usually used to isolate the source and load, right? So if the source is not perfectly matched, for example ZL equal to Z0 is not there, so we'll have reflections, right? So if isolator is there, what it will do, it will absorb the entire signal or the entire wave, so our source is not getting damaged. So if reflection comes, the source might get damaged usually, right? So that is the reason we use isolators, one of the applications. So then we have a gyrator. So a two-port device to give a phase shift of 180 degree in the forward direction and 0 in the backward direction. So this is a very crude statement. Understand it clearly. What is happening? If I give electric field as E angle 0 at the input, I'll get the same electric field E but with a phase shift of 180 degree. So E angle 180 degree. But when I give the input from the right side or the output side, there is no phase shift, means E angle 0 is given at the right side, then at the left side I'll get the same E angle 0. So that is called as gyrator. Okay, so it is similar to isolator and also has three segments in the sense those first, second and third, except the following four differences. These differences are very important. You get a question in the compulsory part, compare isolator and gyrator. So the waveguide twist instead of 45 degree for isolator is changed to 90 degree here, and the ferrite is of double length such that the rotation is of 90 degree. So here you achieve 45 degree rotation, right? So you want double the amount of phase shift, so obviously what you will use, double the length of ferrite, right? Then the direction of magnetic field is kept opposite to that in isolator for Faraday rotation of 90 degree to be in the same direction. Okay. So here it was getting rotated in clockwise direction, anti-clockwise direction. Now it will rotate in anti-clockwise direction, right? So it is opposite to that of isolator. Okay, this is the typo. So, and there are no power absorbing resistive cards because you want signal to travel in both directions. So obviously power absorbing resistive cards are not required. So same thing, same structure behaves. So I will not explain the geometry. So let's see how the gyrator is working. So here I have the electric field. This is a 90 degree twist. So and it is going in towards left. So I'll have an anti-clockwise rotation, right? So at B I have E angle with a phase shift of 90 degree, right? So then again I have a magnetic field with double the length, so it will give a further phase shift of 90 degree. So it is opposite to that of isolator. So previously ferrite was giving in the direction of clockwise, so now it is giving anti-clockwise. So you observe the magnetic field is towards left here, but here this arrow indicates magnetic field. It is not shown, not written B naught, actually it is in the opposite direction, so that's why it is rotating in the opposite direction now. So 90 plus 90, so I have got a 180 degree phase shift. So here it is vertical and above, here it is vertical and downwards, right? So let's say I again give E from the this side. So at C it will come in the same way. There is no transition, 0 degree twist. So now here again Faraday rotation is anti-clockwise from both B to C or C to B, right? So again it will be what? Anti-clockwise, right? So here it will be anti-clockwise, right? Here it is starting to pass through ferrite. So from here it will go, and when it comes out of the ferrite it will be 90 degree rotated. So here it is 90 degree. Now it is coming in the opposite way, right? And it is at 90 degrees. So what will happen? From here it will go like this. So that is in clockwise direction. Because of this twist, it will be basically opposite to this twist, right? So it will come in clockwise direction. Again I have vertical, means I get the same signal at the input side. If I give the input from here, I am getting the same signal without any phase shift. So this is what? Gyrator. So next very important device is circulator. Just to remind you, we have already seen the S parameters for circulator. So you can refer that S parameters of a 3-port network and S parameters of circulator lecture. So what is a circulator? It is a multi-port device such that signal flows from port N to port N plus 1. Okay, means if I giving input to port 1, it will go to port 2 but not to port 3, 4 and 1. But input to port 3 will further go to port 3, input to port 3 will go to port 4 and not to other ports, and so on. Okay, so they are useful in parametric amplifiers, duplexes in radar, etc. So these parametric amplifiers will learn in the next module. And I forgot to show the symbol here, but in the last circulator lecture I have shown the symbol also, I suppose. So the very important circulator and exam question is 4-port circulator using magic T. So that's why I revised magic T also. And so the standard properties of magic T are used along with a gyrator for phase shifting by 180 degree in one direction only. As we saw, what does a gyrator do? It gives a phase shift only in one direction, that is the forward direction. So that concept is used here. And the important thing is the external electric length, which we saw beta L, that is which we saw in transmission lines. Electric length of propagation has to be same, Q to P, R to S and S to Q, for keeping the same phase differences. So what is this? That we'll see in this diagram. So Q to P, R to S, right? Q to P, R to S and S to Q. So S to Q, this electrical length should be same, means beta into L, where beta is the propagation constant. So how this works? So this should act as a circulator, means if I give the input at port 1, the output should come at port 2 only. Rest all ports the output should not come, right? Here also and here also. So let's see how it works. So now in port 1 is the H arm, that is for the means magic. If I give input here, the magic T will act as a H plane T, right? So output is given equally divided here, right? Means if 10 watt is given here, 50 watts will come here, 50 watts will come here, right? So this is what a gyrator. So I am going in the opposite direction of the gyrator as shown here. So it will give a 0 phase shift. So here also I get 50 watts, right? So here also I get 50 watts, right? So I am getting same in phase inputs here at this second magic T. Now they are so what will happen? They are in phase, right? So we just saw that for H plane T, we revise H plane T also for the same reason. So if I have in phase inputs, the output will be in the magic H plane T, right? So H arm. So what is happening? I am getting the output here. So I am giving the input at port 1, I am getting the output at port 2. Rest all ports are not having any output. So this is acting as a circulator. So just to prove this, I will take one more example. Let's say I give the input at port 3. So what will happen? It should come at port 4 only, right? So I am giving the input at port 3. What will happen? It will come with for example 0 phase here and 180 degree phase shift here, right? So they will go here, they will go here. So it will be 0 degree here and 180 degree here. So here it is in phase, here it is out of phase. So output, so this input is like a magic T, sorry, E plane T. So it will come at port 4, right? So again input at port 3 is coming at port 4. If you are confused, just see this E plane T and H plane T working. So what is happening? If I am giving the input here at port 3, power is equally divided but out of phase. So this is, so in the same way, if I give input out of phase here, the output will obviously go to port 3. So same way, if the inputs are in phase, the output will go to H arm only. So in the same way, if I am giving inputs here, they are in phase, the output will go to H arm. If I give the inputs here, the outputs are out of phase, then the output will go to E arm. Okay. So that is what we saw here. Okay. And what is the application? As I said in the circulator lecture, also for your circulator lecture, it can act as a duplexer for an antenna. Okay. So this is port 1 is connected to transmitter, port 2 to antenna, port 3 to receiver, and port 4 is not required actually, so we'll terminate it as a match load. Okay. So transmitter, when it transmits, it should go, obviously the signal should not go directly to receiver, it should go to antenna. So port 1 to port 2, that's what we require. But if antenna is so now you know from antenna and radio wave propagation course that antenna can act as a transmitter as well as receiver. So if it is acting as the receiver, obviously the signal should not go to transmitter, so it will go to the receiver. Why? Because it is acting as a circulator. Input at port 2 will go to port 3, right? And this is a receiver, so there is no question of input at port 3, right? So this is how a circulator is used practically, one of the examples. Okay. So this is, I have referred a different book for this, so you should know how to find a good book also for depending on what you want to study. Okay. So just don't rely on the books given in the syllabus. So if you are finding a better book, that is always welcome. Okay. So if you have observed, for the previous lecture where I used a PPT, it was the same format. That is the same template. So for other subjects also I use the same template. So now you are in final year, so what you should do is you can prepare a PowerPoint template and use the same throughout the year. So you don't have to work every time on a template, and you are going to present also, I think this week or next week. Okay, so make sure you make a standard template and always use that only the throughout the year. Okay, and actually if I read this PPT, this is a very bad PPT. Why? Because I have just mentioned sentences here. That the reason is because you as students will be referring this, so I want you to refer the book. I don't want you to refer the book, because so that your time is saved. That's why I have mentioned it in this way, so that you can refer this PPT. Actually here there should be punch points only, and while presenting the PPT you explain that punch points. That's where a PPT should be prepared actually. Okay, so you can just take this some hints for your presentations.